Now, the bandwagon, as they say, was getting heavy. Everyone started to jump on the bandwagon again.
Portland is not in a position to try to come back, and he should just kind of leave that alone.
Stop being satisfied with mediocre performances.
I don't like it. Plain and simple, I really don't like it. An All-Star game just shows how much they just kind of continue to placate the players and their lackadaisical efforts on the court.
You really sparked my interest, and I'm sure that of many others. Alister, Albert, thank you very much.
Hello and welcome to episode 17 of Baseline to Baseline with Alister and Orane, here with you today on another Sunday the 22nd of March. We are moving along into the calendar and moving along into the NBA season and moving along with our podcast, going on to the next episode where we just, talking basketball as usual. The lovely game that we both love. If you missed our last episode, of course, we did a lovely Caribbean spotlight where we spoke to the president of the St. Lucia Basketball Federation, Glenn Geist. If you missed episode 16, get onto YouTube and watch that. We shared some lovely clips from that and everything, and more to come, because it was a really lovely interview talking about quite a lot of topics that I think that will be really important for other teams across the region, building their teams, the national teams, some of the struggles, some of the things that they do, etc., which might be really good for executives to listen to. So Orane is here with me again on another lovely Sunday where we kind of twinning in color. He has his Manchester City jersey, and I, of course, are rocking a Dwayne Wade jersey, which I think is missing an 8 at the front, which would have represented number 83, which will lead us straight on into this new topic that we're going to talk about. Bam Adebayo. Bam Adebayo had a night of the ages a couple of days ago where he, just went off. He went off. 83 points, the second highest point total in NBA history for a single game, surpassing Kobe Bryant's 81. And if you have been living under a rock, which we hope you aren't, you would have heard all of the talk about and the disputes about, his performance. It's an outstanding point total. I even put out a little video. I don't tend to do these little solo videos very often, which I should do more of. But, I put out my video and I said 83 is 83. No matter how it came, he scored it. And it's our opportunity to talk about it. And of course, Orane, what did you think? What did you see about his performance? What did you think? Did you enjoy it? Or are you one of the detractors who said, this was a crap game and he should have stopped at 81 to pay respects to Kobe Bryant? What do you think?
Get that out of the way. I was not one that said stop at 81 to pay respect to nobody. Rest in peace, the late great Kobe Bryant. But if you have the opportunity to get a record, why not get the record? Because I'm almost sure Bam Adebayo will not have another chance to get to this market.
That's it.
He will not get to this market. So the opportunity presented itself. Everything fell in place on that night for him to break the record, and he got 83. Kudos to him. Well, I didn't see that here. If you had asked me before who are the players that I thought that would have gotten to that mark, I would share the usual suspects. When we talk about elite scorers in the modern day game, NBA, I'm thinking James Harden, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, probably Donovan. Probably is a player that can go off. So Luka Doncic. Those are the players that I would say, yes, could get to that mark. Didn't see Bam Adebayo getting to that mark. I know in high school, his better scoring days would have seen him score 32.2 points per game and also 21 rebounds. So in high school, at Northside High School, he was that player. He was that elite offensive player. Transitioning to the NBA now with Miami, he's not that so much of an offensive threat in the NBA. But he was, for me, to see him get to that mark, and good for him. whenever you have a record, as I said, Alistair, get the record. You stopping at 80, tying Kobe Bryant's 81 points 81 points. How will it prove? I mean, he's gone. Rest in Kobe Bryant, but get the record. I mean, your name is now in history. Second most. Whenever you're talking about most points ever scored in the NBA, your name is there behind Will Chamberlain. So it's a good feat for him. And the only point that I'll give is just to state where the game is at in the NBA. It's just an one-sided, no defense, all offense type of game, and it's really, I don't think this will bring any ratings to the NBA. I mean, a friend of mine, we were both talking about the changes in the NBA now from back then to now, and it was supposed to be a 5-minute discussion that almost went 1 hour. Yeah. That the game has gotten so soft. No hand check. Can you imagine if Michael Jordan was playing in this modern day NBA? Michael Jordan would probably average 75 points per game. He live at the free throw line. And he averaged points per game in an era when you could body slam, you could punch, you could do anything and everything that you wanted to do on the defensive end of the court. And yet still, he could maneuver his way through any defense that the league threw at him, and he could average 30 points per game. So I'm just saying, the league has gone through tremendous changes, and I don't think this is what Adam Silver would have envisioned when he's making all those changes. He's done his part to bring the league to where it is, but I think that some changes has to be made when it comes to how the people want to see the game there. Put it that way. Because I know the majority of the changes would have came after the Malice in the Palace. Yeah? That big bust up where they say, you know what? After review, we saw what was brewing after the first quarter. So when that fight occurred, it was a series of things, not calling things from the referee from the first quarter. If they had kept the game in check from that, Malice in the Palace probably wouldn't have happened. So the NBA, if their changes and say, you know what, let's not have a repeat of this. So I think it's a twofold thing, and this is the result of it. I feel like Bam Adebayo, that's not known for his scoring, goes off, get 83 points and versus history. But kudos to him. If I had the opportunity to get 83, I mean, somebody have the opportunity to get 100 points in a church league game. Why not get it?
True.
A Rocker Park State, score as much points as you want, because that's what the game is throwing at you. So might as well get it. So kudos to Bam getting that 80.
Absolutely agree with you and everything, and it's good that we're in lockstep on that. And of course, I know on social media and podcasts, having that divergent view is what creates more sparks and ratings. But it is what it is. You have to speak intelligently and clearly and rationally about what the situation happened here. This guy scored 83 points, and what people tend to forget is Kobe Bryant, if it was him, he would have done it. Kobe Bryant not holding back for nobody. The whole Mamba mentality is, boy, you're a volume shooter, you're putting it up, I am going for it. So the best way to honor Kobe Bryant was to break his record. And that's what Bam Adebayo did. And I'm happy he did that. And of course he paid homage to him. He made it very clear, Kobe was a great. Everyone will say that, everyone knows that. But and of course it's two different circumstances. When you speak about what the game was, even just then, 2006 was it 2006, and the game is so different, and of course Kobe scored his 81 points in the sense that it was a closer game at that point, between him and the Raptors, and Jalen Rose and everyone says they needed those 81 points for them to win that game, and okay, fine, that was it. It was a more heroic performance, because he needed to do everything within his willpower and open out his whole bag to score the 81 points. And Bam Adebayo did this, but he had a lot of help from the Washington Wizards. And I remember saying go ahead and I'll continue that. Yeah.
I remember after he scored the 81, when they asked him about that 81 points performance, Kobe Bryant famously said, You saw who scored the second most points in that game? On my side, Smush Parker. I had to score 81 points. So just say he had to score points during that time in the LA. You can continue.
It was a team. Yeah, it was a team that they needed everything and he needed to max out. That was one of the highlights of their season, and it is what it is. But coming back to him scoring the 83, one thing people need to realize as well. A lot of people talk about the free throws. It was ridiculous, absolutely. The Washington Wizards aided him by fouling as much as they did. But if Bam Adebayo took 43 free throws and he missed 36 of them, he would get the bashing of the media just as much. So he had to go out there and score what he had to score. So he went out there, he made his free throws, he did what he did. The team was triple teaming him. They would consistently continue to foul him, after 70 points at one point in the fourth quarter. So, it's on them. And of course, it's a very inexperienced team, young team, and it's a growing point for them, a massive blemish for them as a franchise and those players being there on the court. But 83 is 83, like I said. He scored it. I think all of the backlash that has come, everybody saying that it shouldn't have been done. How is it Bam Adebayo? I have to go back to the comments that Michael Beasley had made in a podcast where he said, you all don't understand how good Bam is, Bam is a point guard stuck in the center's body, and he could do so much more, basically. And Spoelstra is kind of holding him back. This is the result of, your coach allowing you to do what you need to do. And he went off, 83.
That's a very good point that you made. Because that interview, I'm almost sure, went over several persons' head. You know why?
It did.
Yeah. You know why? Who the comment was coming
from. That's right. Yep.
That much respected in NBA circles because his problems. A lot of persons, it's Michael Beasley. But if that comment that came from LeBron James or a JJ Redick, guys that people respect, or Rajon Rondo, a lot of persons would have taken note and said,
excellent point.
Let's look at closely and see what he has in store. But because it was coming from Michael Beasley, it just pushed under the rug. But we see what he actually said is absolutely spot on.
That's
very much true. He said that this guy was being held back, he was being restricted on the offensive end, and whenever he gets the tools, whenever he gets the green light to perform, people are going to Bam Adebayo. We saw it on that thing. They gave him the green light.
And why would people not even take Michael Beasley's comments on? People don't realize how good Michael Beasley was. He's had a bad rap, temper, weed, whatever it might be, and he got out of the league a lot earlier, kind of walked to the beat of his own drum. But Michael Beasley, during that draft, 2008, was basically, everyone was saying, it's either him or Derrick Rose, first round pick. Obviously, Derrick Rose went the first round pick, but Michael Beasley easily could have been the first overall pick of that 2008 draft. And everyone was just looking to see what he did. And every team he went to, yes, the discipline and everything was a little bit of a problem, but he led his teams, he played hard, and he did and one thing everyone says, one-on-one, people couldn't stop that guy. The origins of that interview that he had was that, I think I can't remember who the host of the podcast is. He said, everyone knows he's a legendary one-on-one player. Nobody could beat him one-on-one. Bam Adebayo is the only person, whilst he played in Miami, he said, was the only person to beat him one-on-one. And that's because of course, the blend of skill, the size and everything. So he saw that and he was able to call it out for people and be like, yo, listen, forget the messenger. You made a really good point with that there. This is a guy who has the credentials to talk about scoring and being able to do stuff. And he was spot on with that. And Bam has scored 83. And it is what it is. And people need to get over it. The season will go on. A couple of nights, it was last night, I think they were playing a game against the Houston Rockets, and he had 21 rebounds at the end of the third quarter. And it's like, what is Bam gonna do now? He finished with 21 rebounds, but and they lost the game. But he's an outstanding talent, and we should recognize him. He's not a James Harden. He's not a Kevin Durant. He's not known as a scorer. His previous career high was 41 points. But he's done what he's done. And like most people said, if it was easy to do, somebody else would have done it already. He's done it, and give the boy his praises. He needs it, and that's the end of it, basically. Any other things you want to say on that, or do have we wrapped this up and put a bow tie on it properly?
Beasley was one of those players in the NBA that you didn't have to run a play for Michael. Offensively, he reminds me of Joe Johnson. Give him the ball on top of the key, and just good for Michael B. Kind of play. I mean, if he had just kept his dispiriting on the wraps, man, Michael Beasley would have had a much better career. But he's a true basketball player.
That's a true hooper, and people who know hoops and people who watch hoops and know what his origins are, how good he was, what was kind of squandered in the league and what he could have been. We saw glimpses of it when he was traded to Minnesota, and yeah, that team wasn't great, but he led that team in scoring. He did everything that he could have for that team. And the boy is capable, so he knows what he's saying in terms of being a scorer. And he's been known as that. And but back to Bam, kudos to him. And let's see what else happened. Let's see who's gonna break this record now, and pass that. that's what we want to kind of see now. On to topic number 2 now. Of course, the next thing we want to discuss here on this episode, I think it's time to have a little bit of a spotlight of the Charlotte Hornets. The Charlotte Hornets have been a team, from the time the calendar flipped to 2026, have been a remarkable team to watch. LaMelo Ball, Knueppel, Brandon Miller, Miles Bridges, all these boys are just rocking it out. After the trade deadline, they got Kobe White, and that seemed to actually push that team even further. And they're now, 10, they're still 10. But the Charlotte Hornets being 3 games above 500 at this point of the season is a surprise. And they're actually playing really good basketball. They just started the season too rough. And they are where they are. What do you think about the Charlotte Hornets so far? What noise do you think that they can make in the plane? Because they will be a playing team. Are they a team that people need to watch out for? Or are they just one of those good stories that we just need to forget about really quickly?
Well, I think it's a combination of both. They don't make much noise in the East. Certainly didn't see them doing this, but 10th overall in the Eastern Conference. I think praises has to be given from top down. And when I say top down, from management come right down. Coach Charles did an excellent job. Recently named Coach of the Month for January at the start of the year.
Yep.
Done a very good job with not a lot of talent. And no LaMelo Ball that guy is a superstar under construction. LaMelo has all the tools to become that guy in the NBA. And when you look at starting 5, you have LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller, Knueppel, Michael Bridges, Moussa Diabate. Not a starting 5 that will scream at you, but a starting 5 that if they play good, play collectively, they can make some kind of noise. And they're showing just that. I think about 9th, 10th in the Eastern Conference will be their ceiling. That would be good for them because we haven't seen them in the playoffs since 2016 when they lost to the Miami Heat in the first round. Yeah, could break that 10-year drought. I think it would be good for them as a franchise to just see them back in that playoffs. And kudos to everyone over there in Charlotte, man. It's a team that's a small market, very small market team. And we like to see stories like these, teams that no one saw coming out and showing off. And Charlotte Hornets has been doing that since the start of the year. And we give praises to them. But I don't think they'll make a lot of noise, as I said, in the Eastern Conference. But wherever they finish, if they should get to the play-in and then make it to the playoffs, even if they get bounced out in the first round, I think it will be a good story for them and a season that they can build on.
For a lot of teams, when they come into the season, they have their expectations, they have their goals. The Lakers are always championship and bust. The Boston Celtics, same way. And there's certain teams where you'd be like, oh boy, if we get to the playoffs, it's a perfect season. It's a really good season. We're in the right trajectory. That is where the Charlotte Hornets are. It's a situation where you thought they would have been playoff worthy maybe the last couple of years because LaMelo Ball has been in the league for a few years now. And you just expect, let me see, how many years has he been in the league now? It's his fifth year into the league, and made a couple of all-star squads, very capable offensive guy, very unorthodox, good passer, everything. Lots of praises to him. He has, like you say, he has everything in the toolkit to be a superstar in this league. One of the things I'd like to say is I'd love to see him on a team with well, I would have said that before. Put him on a team with a little more structure and a coach that could really guide him and really, tailor his game to a system, and he'd be good. He's doing it right now. He's showing it right now. Charles Lee has definitely gotten his talent under control to produce.
Can you imagine LaMelo Ball on a Houston Rockets or a San Antonio Spurs?
Oh yeah. That's the end of it. With those guys around him and stuff, that would be the end of it. And it was coming to a point, I think, earlier on in the season where we were talking about trades and everything. I think there was a point in time we were talking about LaMelo Ball. Who knows where he's going to end up? Will he be traded and all that sort of stuff? Because it kind of felt like they had peaked, they had plateaued. And then Knueppel just continued to play steady. This is a guy who is in his rookie season, is averaging 19.1 points a game, third on the team, most three-pointers in the NBA so this season, 243, leads rookies, leads everybody. And it sets a rookie all-time record, and he's not playing like a rookie, and he's here to show you that I'm not here to wait for year 3. I'm here to try to make this work right now with my teammates. And he's just been a really good piece that this team hasn't had. Kobe White, I wasn't sure what that would look like with him on that team. But he's doing really well. He's kind of coming and continue to be the spark plug that he is. And dare I say, of course, now if let's say they did make the playoffs, they would come in most likely as this. Let's say, okay, the seventh or eighth seed if they made it through the play-in. So that's either Detroit or the Boston Celtics or maybe the New York Knicks, depending on how the seeding shakes out. Now, I do not expect the Charlotte Hornets to do anything to those teams. I don't expect them to advance, but they'll give them a really good schedule. They'll give them a really good run in the sense that, this is the prep that we needed to become a championship team moving forward in the rest of the playoffs. The Charlotte Hornets will push them. They play at a fast pace. They hit a lot of threes, and they move the ball around, and they play a lot more discipline. So those teams at the top of the brackets, at the top of the standings, need to be very respectful of the Charlotte Hornets because they might not win the series. I don't think many people expect that, but sleep on them and they might do some stuff. They might take about 2 or 3 games from you that you didn't expect. And I think that's kind of where they are. So hats off to them, Charles Lee. Like you said, he's done an outstanding job coaching this team this year. Who would have thought the Charlotte Hornets have a better records than the Milwaukee Bucks this year?
Because it just showed me that in the last, and we said that Knueppel will win Rookie of the Year.
Yes.
Hands down for me. LaMelo Ball was Rookie of the Year in 2021. Charlotte Hornets as a franchise, a small market franchise, are now set to have 2 Rookie of the Year players on their roster in the last. For me, that's very good.
Yep.
And it comes down to management now in surrounding those players with veteran pieces.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, that again is the takeaway from small market. I mean, which big player, big time player, big tag player would want to go to Charlotte to play in Charlotte? That's the difference with a small market and a big market team. Because I'm saying a veteran or 2 on the Charlotte Hornets team with LaMelo Ball and your 3-point scorer, Knueppel. I mean, see them going further in the Eastern Conference, probably a 5th or 4th seed. No. Come down to management, they really have trust and faith and what their overall vision is for the Charlotte Hornets. So you just have to. But that's good for them in having 2 Rookie of the Year, set to have 2 Rookie of the Year in the last 5-6 seasons in the NBA.
And the funny thing about it is Michael Jordan, of course, was a majority owner of that team. He's given up his majority stake. Just has a minor stake in the team right now. Mitch Kupchak, who came from the Los Angeles Lakers, was the executive. Was making some really weird, moves and contract offers and everything. He's now out, and it's a no name franchise right now. Yes, it's the Charlotte Hornets. We know, the teal and purple franchise, the uniforms, nostalgic uniforms and everything. But Charles Lee, Jeff Peterson, who's the executive, and guys that, if you don't have League Pass and you don't watch basketball religiously, you probably wouldn't know anything about them. But they're hitting their mark, they're hitting their stride, and they're putting themselves in a position to earn respect moving forward. This is a season where they've kind of taking that step, that next step to kind of being a competitive team. And let's see, like you say, can they sustain management efficiency and good decisions to make the team move forward where they are. So let's see what happens with them. I think it was really good to spotlight them. I think just before you say the last thing you're going to say, earlier on in the season when we were doing our All-Star selections, I had mentioned Knueppel as an honorable mention because he was playing so good at this point. And it's nice to see where the team is at right now with him, even as a rookie, doing what he's done. Yeah, your last point on this.
And I was saying, I hope the NBA don't mess this up and try and tweak anything with Cooper Flag.
Ooh.
Because he's been doing very well. But I've always seen the NBA go towards giving players awards that are winning teams. Yeah? Dallas Mavericks are well out of the playoff race, well out of the Charlotte Hornets, they're still with us. They're in playing position now with a possible into the playoffs. So if you're going by the rhetoric that you have, he should be the overwhelming favorite to win Rookie of the Year.
No, I agree with you. And earlier on in the season, I would have said Cooper Flag, but yeah,
as a rookie, there's why if the season should end now on this day in sports, he's hands down the favorite and not Cooper Flag.
Yeah, I agree with you. Early on in the season, I would have said Cooper Flag because he's exhibited a type of game that, is really all-rounded. Going out, dunking on guys, shooting. Jason Kidd has him playing a little bit of point guard. That hasn't really worked out too well, but, it's expanded his game even further. Playing, fearlessly and everything. And I think it's really good to see what he's been able to do in Dallas. But when you talk about someone who's impacted a team as much as Knueppel has, raising them to potentially a playoff team, raising that team up to, they're 37 and 34 this season. Last season, they ended the season at 19 and 63, right? So this is the rise that this team has had. 15 games better at this point in the season than their overall record last season. And of course, there was injuries and all that sort of stuff. But it just shows you, like, when you have the right makeup of a team and a coach who could get the most out of their players, you don't mess with that. And I agree with you. I think all roads should lead to him being the overwhelming favorite. He's been consistent. He's been, a breath of fresh air for the league. And I think he should bag that trophy, like you said. And the last topic we have here, a couple of minutes we have left, actually 5 minutes left on this thing. We're gonna try to wrap it up as soon as possible today. Tracy McGrady, Hall of Famer. He has a podcast with his cousin Vince Carter, aptly named Cousins. Cousins is the name of the podcast, and they're having a bit of a discussion. And I know the last couple of seasons and years we've been talking about the possibility of the league expanding teams, expanding its league into Las Vegas and Seattle. That's been the talk. Let's see what happens. Who's going to move to the East? If that happens, whatever. Okay, so fine. We're going to talk about 32 teams. T-Mac had a discussion on the podcast where he said very directly, he thinks it's a wrong move. The league doesn't have enough talent to sustain 32 teams.
Do we have enough quality basketball players to add 2 more NBA teams?
You seen the Washington Wizards play? What Bam did to them the other night, like, do we need more of that? I'm just saying, I see bad basketball around the NBA. I know some players are hurt, like, Tyrese Halliburton is hurt in Indiana, but what that product that we're seeing is bad.
You're going to be diluting. There's going to be an expansion draft, players moving around. You're probably bringing in more players who are probably not NBA ready onto teams, etc., etc. So he made the point that he just thinks expansion is nonsense. It maybe move a couple of teams that are not performing well to those new areas, but don't expand. You're just going to dilute the product. We're talking about the NBA is crap right now. Why would you want to do that? And I thought it was a very interesting take, and I wanted to get your view on that. Do you think moving to 32 teams works for the NBA, or should they stay as is?
Well, I think we'll have to continue this one in the next episode. But in the short time that we have, Alister, I would want it to stay at 30 at the moment. In the NBA have done a lot of things to just bring back eyes to the NBA Cup, right? Is the brainchild of Adam Silver, because the league before Christmas had a lull.
Yeah.
So after the opening week of the NBA, we have a lull until Christmas. It picks up. Christmas, just around the Christmas season, picks up, dies down, comes up back just around February All-Star break, then dies down and rises just before the playoffs start. So the NBA has done a lot of things to try and magnify the best out of the league. They have done well. So I think a stretch up into 32 might be a stretch again. I love the 30 as it is, but I think the real conversation that should be up is, should the 82 games be cut? I think that's
another point. Yeah,
that's where the conversation should start. But moving to 32 teams is not to give more players highlights. It's not about that. It's about marketing and getting more money for the league. So it's not about, and the league is not short on talent. I don't know where that storyline is coming from. The league is not short on talent. We have talented players all over, splattered across the NBA.
That's it.
And we've seen it in the playoffs. Every playoff season, there's a new player that gets birthed.
Elevated, yeah.
Tyrese Halliburton exploded in the playoffs last year. No one saw that coming. So the playoffs is a big moment where players rise to the occasion. And I think that we have enough talented players in the league. A couple seasons ago, the players were in arms. Oh, when will LeBron retire? If LeBron retires, the league in good hands. We've seen it, that if LeBron should retire, no, the league is in good hands.
Yeah.
Not a shortage of talent. That's why we're doing this. The league is in good hands. Trust me, we have enough talented players over.
And yeah, to wrap it up in a couple of minutes left, literally, I'm not opposed to it. 32 teams. I think, I'm all for more basketball, so I wouldn't mind. And seeing teams like, Seattle getting another team would be great. The Supersonics going back, and Las Vegas would be really good to see what that looks like. I'm not a proponent of cutting the games down to 72. Steve Kerr, of course, he said a couple of weekdays ago. But like we said, we probably will have to talk about this at another episode. Maybe we could talk about it a little more and see what comes out from it. But it's an interesting conversation to be had, and definitely it all comes back to money, revenue. That's what the league is trying to look for with these conversations. And is money, like we say, money is the root to all sorts of stuff. And is it the right move to make? And we will have to see what happens there. But I'm not opposed to it, but let's see how it kind of plays out. So, but let's do this and end on this note for Baseline to Baseline episode 16. Orane, thank you very much for coming in this Sunday. Thank you very much, everyone else. Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, everywhere. Go get it out. Check it out. Follow, subscribe, share. We had some lovely interviews, as you've seen, and more to come. The NBA season is coming to an end, the playoffs, and we will have more conversations coming up with you very shortly. Orane, thank you very much, man, and we shall catch up soon. Respect.
Yeah. From the hardwood floor to the spotlight glow, breaking down the stats every fan should know. Trace, place, legends in the making, every headline, no mistaking. Fast breaks, What's crossovers, highlight reels? What's real strategy, what's hype and feels? East to west, we call it straight. From draft night buzz to finals fade. Baseline to baseline, we cover it all. Big plays, bold takes the rise and the fall. Baseline to baseline, where passion is prime. Your end